Good afternoon, my name is Father Rayappa from the Ekattupudi village near Vellore, South India. Today I am going to talk about Centesimus Annus, the 100th year commemorating Rerum, Novarum, an encyclical on capital and labor which was written in 1891 by Pope Leo XIII. So this is a commemoration year. I think it was written in 1991 by Saint Pope John Paul II, commemorating the 100th year. In Latin it is called Centesimus Annus. So I'm going to read paragraph number 7, in which Pope is writing about Pope Leo's vision of work and Pope Leo's vision of the ownership of the land. So actually Pope Leo, he recognizes the rights of human persons. Actually, he talks about the rights of the worker, because it was a time, the Industrial Revolution in England, and people were treated like trash. They didn't have good working conditions. They were working too long. Even children and women were forced into labor. In London, the black skies, and every house was polluted. The roads were with the smoke and slush, with lots of coal particles, and people were suffering with unhygienic conditions, and people were feeling sick, and they lost their dignity altogether. And that is the kind of scenario in which Pope Leo XIII is writing this article, and he's talking about trade unions. Trade unions means you can form associations and you can fight for your rights. I think that is the first time in the history of our civilization that trade unions are appearing. So today there are a lot of trade unions and people can fight for their own rights. And also Pope was recommending the limitation of working hours, because there was no any rules there during the Industrial Revolution, and some people worked for 13 hours, some people worked 16 hours, not 8 hours. That framework was not existing at the time. So Pope Leo XIII in Rerum, Novarum, he was defending the rights of people, and also he was defending the working conditions should be good, and also he was recommending there should be a time limit for work, and maybe 8 hours. So such kind of awareness was being born in the society. And also rest. He was asking one day in a week they should rest, human beings, because the biblical mandate. So actually during Industrial Revolution there was no Sunday, nothing, 24 hours. They produced and they sold goods, and it was first time that worker can't sell his own product, because before that people were producing their own product, like pot, like a plow, like plates, and they were selling their products, what they produced. But this is Industrial Revolution. They produced goods, but they didn't have a right to sell them. Only the producers, they sold and made the money. So there are a lot of things Pope was talking about in Rerum Novarum. So Pope John Paul II, when he writes Centesimus Annus, and he is contextualizing, employing hermeneutics, and he is bringing his writing to the present setup, to our civilization, and he is reframing the statement what was made by Pope Leo XIII some 100 years back. So I'm going to read paragraph number 7 from Centesimus Annus, written by Pope John Paul II. He writes as follows: in close connection with the right to private property, Pope Leo XIII Encyclical also affirms other rights as inalienable and proper to the human person. Prominent among these, because of the space which the Pope devotes to it and the importance which he attaches to it, is the natural human right to form private associations. This means, above all, the right to establish professional associations of employers and workers, or of workers alone. Here we find the reason for the Church's defense and approval of the establishment of what are commonly called trade unions. Certainly not because of ideological prejudices or in order to surrender to a class mentality, but because the right of association is a natural right of the human being, which therefore precedes his or her incorporation into political society. Indeed, the formation of unions cannot be prohibited by the state, because the state is bound to protect natural rights, not to destroy them, and if it forbids its citizens to form associations, it contradicts the very principle of its own existence. Together with this right, which it must be stressed, the Pope explicitly acknowledges as belonging to workers, or using his own language, to the working class. The Encyclical affirms just as clearly the right to the limitation of working hours, the right to legitimate rest, and the right of children and women to be treated differently with regard to the type and duration of work. If we keep in mind what history tells us about the practices permitted, or at least not excluded by law, regarding the way in which workers were employed, without any guarantees as to working hours or the hygienic conditions of the workplace, or even regarding age and sex of apprentices, we can appreciate the Pope's severe statement. It is neither just nor human so to grind men down with excessive labor as to stupefy their minds and wear out their bodies. And referring to the contract aimed at putting into effect labor relations of this sort, he affirms with greater precision that in all agreements between employers and workers, there is always the condition expressed or understood that proper rest be allowed, proportionate to the wear and tear of one's strength. He then concludes, to agree in any other sense would be against what is right and just. So that is what Pope John Paul II in Centesimus Annus in paragraph number 7 states. So in Rerum Novarum, 100 years before Centesimus Annus, Pope Leo XIII wrote confidently, and also he expressed with the severe words. He says, proper rest be allowed, the wear and tear of one's strength. We need to be careful. And also women and children. If you employ them, there should be laws. You can't simply employ and they can work for hours. No, there is only for women and children maybe 4 hours or 6 hours. For men only 8 hours. That kind of legislation all appeared after the encyclical called Rerum Novarum. So today, Centesimus Annus it came in 1991, almost 25 years now. And Centesimus Annus is quoted by politics, by big firms and the trade unions and associations, NGO groups, in every level, probably in all the international levels. people are quoting Centesimus Annus and Rerum, Novarum. And because church backed up, gave support to the workers, because workers were suppressed during the industrial revolution. So church stood by the worker. So the benefits what the workers had during the industrial revolution, they continue even today, and people form associations and trade unions. Even today, I am a Catholic priest. Also, we have an association called CDPI, Catholic Diocesan Priest of India. For a long time, we didn't have it, but probably Rerum Novarum is the cause for that. But after the promulgation of the Encyclical, I don't think priests could do that. Only workers, they formed the trade unions, but the priests, they didn't form the association or trade union. I would say probably after Centesimus Annus, I think that awareness has come. And church authorities like bishops, and they promote forming this kind of associations, they support it, and that is a good, it is a heartwarming gesture, I think. And today, because we have been Catholic priests were neglected, because there is a lot of injustices going around. We were fighting for justice for the lay people, but at the same time, we didn't have much of justice in our lives. That is the feeling of the Presbyterian around the world. But now, no need to complain. And church has looked into the matter, and I think we have a platform. And of course, the CDPI, they are doing wonderful job, and I think that will be an excellent infrastructure in the near future. And please read Centesimus Annus, paragraph number 7, and written by Saint Pope John Paul II, and you will enjoy it. And thank you. God bless.